Here we are again for another episode of the Hourglass Podcast, where family law and psychology intersect. You've got to decide, how do I celebrate the Yuletide season this year? Who do I buy gifts for? Who do I take off my list? Should I plan my festivities in keeping with the ones from years past? Will I spend my time with the same people? Will I go to the same places, prepare the same celebratory feast? Or will everything be drastically different? We have USC Provost Professor Emeritus of Psychology and Business, Wendy Wood. So how long exactly does it take to form a habit? If you are trying to create new habits, is there an average length of time? Is there a certain number of repetitions that you have to do?
It'd be nice if there was. You could say, okay, I'm finally done. I formed that habit. I don't have to struggle anymore.
Right.
If you think of habits as a learning system, though, it makes sense that there wouldn't be a number, right? Because some things are just harder to learn than others. And so if you have complex activities, like going to the gym is pretty complicated when you think about all the things you have to organize in order to get there. That's a complex habit to form. And there are some people who think it never actually completely becomes a habit. So some parts of it might. You know, you get your workout clothes together, you put them in a bag, you put them by the door, and then that reminds you, oh yeah, I was going to go to the gym, and then you just get in the car and you head there without thinking a whole lot about it. But there are probably parts of it that are also more thoughtful. So for complex behaviors, they may never completely become habitual, and it will take longer for them to become habits than something simple like, for most of us, we make coffee in the morning out of habit. And we tend to do the same things every day because we figured out something that's good enough or something that tastes good to us. And we just do it over and over. And that might only take a month of repetition. But it really depends on how complex the behavior is, how many times you have to repeat it in order for those habit memory associations to form.
Okay, now why is it that certain weight loss programs, commercial programs, without naming names, how come they don't always work for people in changing their habits around eating and potentially losing weight?
Well, as I said, most of us don't understand how to change habit memories. And we go in it with great motivation and goals, thinking that we're going to change our behavior, we're going to lose weight, and we do so effortfully, trying hard, really controlling our behavior. But then, as I said, over time, that just gets tedious and effortful and no fun. You're not only not able to eat the things that you're used to and come to like, you have to start figuring out other foods to eat that you don't like so much. You have to control. And most weight control efforts are like that. We're not focusing on ways to control our habits. Instead, we're going to the easy solution, which is, let me just control my behavior, and ultimately, I'm sure I'll win, which is, for most of us, I'm afraid, wishful thinking.
Right.
A better approach that does seem to control behavior and help people lose weight is to control the environment, control the cues around you so that they're not activating thoughts of eating constantly. I mean, we've all stood in front of the refrigerator and just automatically opened it and looked inside to see what was there, even if we weren't hungry. That's what happens when you have a habit, is you just do the behavior. Chips on the counter, you're going to put your hand in the bag, whether you're hungry or not. So controlling the context would be moving the bag of chips off of the counter, not having food around. It would be maybe not having it in the house if you don't want to eat it. One of my tricks is I like sweet things. So whenever I end up buying something that's sweet, I freeze it. And then you just have to wait a while
Right.
to eat it for it to defrost. And that for me works. But everybody will find tricks if they focus on controlling the environment, not so much controlling themselves.
Right.
It doesn't stop you from eating these foods, right? But
Right.
you don't have to stop eating them. You just want to eat a little bit less in
Right.
order to lose weight. And so figuring out ways to change the environment and make it a little bit harder to eat the way you normally do is, and in current research, seems to be the key.
Sure. Now, just slightly different. Is there any sort of magic in ridding yourself of an addiction, whether it's drugs or alcohol or gambling? How do habits play in that?
Well, I don't study addictions. I just study habits. Addictions are related to habits because they involve habits, but they involve other things as well. We typically think of addictions as involving some substance that alters your mental or physical state.
Sure.
And habits are much broader than that. So habit memories are involved in addiction, but addiction is more than just a habit. And I think sometimes people use the term addiction when really they mean a strong habit.
Sure.
We think of like video game addiction or addiction to your cell phones. If I took your cell phone away, you'd probably think about it a few times, but I don't think you'd suffer withdrawal.
Right.
The same way that an alcoholic would suffer withdrawal if they stop drinking. So habits are a slightly different system. Our cell phones form strong habits, and video games can form strong habits too. But it's not necessarily an addiction.
All right. Anything else that I've missed that our viewers would appreciate hearing about in how habits can help them in their lives?
Well, we used to think that some people had a lot of self-control. Some of this came from those old marshmallow studies. Do you remember Walter Mischel gave 4-year-olds a marshmallow, and if they could sit there and not eat it,
right,
10 or 15 minutes, then they got 2 marshmallows.
Right.
And only some kids could do that. And the kids who could do it ended up growing up getting higher SAT scores, getting better grades, even weighing less than kids who gave into that temptation. So we started to think that some people, boy, they just have really strong self-control and willpower, and they're just meant for success. And the rest of us, well, too bad. Because it's something that you either have when you're 4 or you're not going to have it. But if you look at that research a little bit more closely, you come away with really different impressions. One of the conditions in that study, that original study with the 4-year-olds and the marshmallow, what they did is they took the marshmallow and put it aside and put a pie tin on it. And told the kids, you can eat this anytime you want to, but we're just going to put a tin over it and lift it up if you want to. But if you can wait those 10 or 15 minutes, then you'll get 2 marshmallows. Almost all the kids could do it then. They could all wait. They all exerted self-control, which is what we've learned about self-control. It's so much more about the environment that you're in, right? it kind of relates back to the conversation we were having about dieting and eating.
Yeah.
If you control the environment so that you're not cued and tempted constantly, most of us can then act like someone who has high self-control. So controlling the environment really seems to be key to success in many domains in our lives. And the trick then is what helps you control your environment to meet your goals. And that's a different question than
Right.
How do you exert self-control? Instead, how do you put things in place so that your environment works for you? And that seems to be the key to people who have high self-control.
Great. A great way to wrap things up, Dr. Wood. Where do people find you if they want to find more about your book or about the research or the work you do? I'm
on LinkedIn. Also, all you have to do is type in Wendy Wood on Google, and you'll get a connection to my email at University of Southern California. And I'd love to talk to people further about this and their own challenges.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
Of course.